Mr. Bob Pollock is unwinding the cord on his headset there so he can take your call. If you have a question for Bob Pollock this morning, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. That's 349-9227. Mr. Pollock, good morning.
Good morning.
First question has to be with the cooler weather that is coming and with the wet weather that we've had. What's the tomato? I'm just going to head off because I know that there are people out there ready to ask. What's the tomato blight news today? Anything?
Unfortunately, there is news.
There is news on the tomato blight front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yesterday, we had a tomato sample brought into the office, and it has late blight on it.
Late blight.
Yep.
Now,
so that's not good.
Right. Early blight is to be expected, right? Late blight
Yes.
is the one that where everyone is so frightened of.
Right. And it's the one that will devastate the planting in
Yeah.
a short period of time.
Yeah, and really it can really spread.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we're supposed to get some storms today. That's exactly how this thing moves around.
Get them all sprayed though.
Yes.
Get your antifungal spray and get out there.
There's still time to do that today. Get that on before we have this event coming, rain event coming, will be helpful. And if you see signs of it, and late blight cannot be there, or you cannot see it yesterday, and today you look at your plants, and boom, there's these brown blotches on the stems, on the branches of the plant. The leaves will get a watery soaked appearance, and it'll be blotchy. It'll be it can be a quarter size or twice that size on a leaf, and it'll go from the edge of the leaf into the middle and past the middle. It doesn't care about the veins of the leaf. A lot of fungal diseases will start out as leaf spots. Definitive spots, and they'll be between the veins and be round. Late blight is just this area, this patch on the leaf, and it'll look water-soaked and dark, and then the corresponding brown patches on the stems and branches. That's it. Late
Okay.
blight.
All right. So this particular sample came from what area?
Around the Indiana area.
Okay.
So we just need to inspect our plantings. At this point, go check your tomato plants, see how they're doing. If you haven't applied some sort of preventative spray, now would be the time to do it prior to when we get this rainfall. If you can't do it prior to the rainfall today, it looks like this thing's going to come in and go out by morning, to come in as soon as the plants dry off tomorrow. Put a spray on. So we're trying to help prevent. We've got to prevent these diseases from happening, as best we can. And even with early blight, you can do treatments of a variety of fungicides, and you can still get leaf spotting occurring and some early blight on the plants. Early blight, not near as much of a big a deal as the late blight is.
Okay. So
that's
that'll destroy your
where we
tomato
are.
crop right away.
And it was just a week ago that it was confirmed in Chester County. Now, granted, this is just from me looking at part of a plant, looking at the symptoms. We've, of course, sent the sample in to our disease clinic at Penn State, where they can confirm that, and then once it's confirmed, then they will put that on the usablight.org system, so that would show up there, provided it becomes confirmed.
All right. Well, there you go, boys and girls. There's your warning that if you don't have your antifungal spray now, it's the time to get it and get it applied. I imagine now all the stores are going to get a run on this stuff. So.
Hopefully people are ready to go already.
Yeah, you probably
for the most part.
People who have themselves already a tomato crop and remember the experience. When was the last great big blight? Was that 2009? No, it was.
Yeah, it was in that.
Yeah.
Time frame, and we've had just maybe a spot here, a spot there since then, but
yeah. Since that time, every time you plant the crop, you make sure that you have the spray because you can remember how devastating it was to your tomato plants. All right, and blight doesn't only hit tomato plants, correct? Or in this case,
this particular one
is going to be
on
tomatoes
and potatoes.
And potatoes as well.
Yeah, and the ones that have been confirmed so far around us in other states, they call them strains. There's different strains of this disease, and US 23 is a very common one that's been around a long time and usually pops up somewhere every year, but those have all been confirmed at that as that strain, which then means that most plants are susceptible to that particular strain.
And obviously, the sample you send off to the lab is going to confirm what strain this is.
Yeah, they'll identify it as that, and then there's actually a lab at Cornell that will do the final genotyping of that to give which strain of the disease that it is.
All right, so you've been a fountain of good news so far this morning.
Yeah, just love to report that stuff.
If you have a question for Bob, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS, people will obviously want to know, okay, once I spray them and if I still get the blight, what must I do? You've got to tear that plant out of there, root and all, huh?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because the plant's going to die within a matter of days to a week. So the best thing, if you have it, there's lots of pictures online of what it looks like, but
and burning it is not the solution because you want it in a plastic bag so the spores can't get out.
If you can compost it like that, bag it and compost it. If you have too many plants, then bury them. You can also put them in a pile and tarp them. So if we get warmer, of course now we're going to go into a cooler time frame a little bit, mid-70s appears to be for the next week. But as long as we have sunny days and under a black tarp, that stuff will melt down pretty quickly, and it will also contain it, too.
Okay.
We're really trying to not have the spores that are there, that disease cycle to continue, develop spores so that then it can move off somewhere else.
Okay, let's get to our caller. Good morning.
Hi, Bob.
Good morning.
For the first time in a long time, I've had my beets germinate, and more of them are growing above the ground than are growing below the ground. And I just wondered, next year, what could I do to remedy that situation so that, that all grow down into the ground and instead of growing long and skinny on top of the ground?
You should see the expression on Bob's face right now.
Well, when you said long and skinny, are they regular round variety, or are they one of the more carrot-like?
No, they're the Detroit.
Okay.
Traditional.
Oh, well, soil. If the soil gets compacted and hard and makes it more difficult for plants to grow down in the soil, that could be a reason they're growing some above the ground. So if the soil's loose, and we've had so much rainfall, there's been a lot of compaction there with the rainfall, and then because there's moisture in it, any kind of activity on that can cause compaction. So it may help just a little bit of cultivation, but if your soil's good and loose, then that's not the problem here. But if there is some compaction and the soil's hard, that could help explain why some of that's growing above the ground. If you've seeded it the same depth that you've normally have, seeding depth might affect that a little bit. You can also hill a little bit of soil up, come along and loosen the soil and just cover those tops a little bit with that. That could help as well.
But it's not a depth thing at the planting.
Yeah, and sometimes when those are exposed too much, they'll start to get woody on the top.
Right.
So you'll lose some of that beet. So just kind of going along, almost like you'd hill potatoes a little bit.
Right.
You can just come along there with loose soil and shore that up a bit.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks a bunch.
Have a wonderful
Bye-bye.
day. Yeah, and that has nothing to do with having planted not deep enough or anything like that. The beet is going to make its own choice of where it wants to grow.
Yeah, although that depth can affect, it can affect that some.
Oh, yeah?
So just planting a little bit
A
deeper.
little deeper next
Yeah.
time might help.
Might help too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He's Bob Pollock from the Extension Service, and just enough time to take one more caller. If you want to get a call in and a question to Bob, you can do that.
The other thing that came into the office this week was on basil. A lot of people grow that herb, but turns out it had basil downy mildew, which is
Basil downy mildew.
which can be very devastating. That's another one where you got to yank the whole plant out, bag it, and dispose of it, because those spores also will. They need to have the basil plant alive to grow. When the basil plant's no longer there, then those spores will die or they'll get moved to other locations. But that'll cause the whole plant to die, and it also makes that any of the leaves and everything unusable because you get this. It almost looks like a little bit of browning and things on the when you look at the top of the leaf, but when you turn the leaf over, it can just be kind of look black.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all the mold spores that are on there. So the weather conditions we've had really have been conducive to.
So
this.
those are airborne as well.
Yes, yeah, and it'll get moved around. So that,
he's just
if you're a plant,
wonderful for us. Today.
yeah, if you're a plant pathologist, you love this.
This
kind
is
of stuff.
this is
But-
your bailiwick.
but,
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a lot of hemlock trees in my yard, and I've noticed this year that at the base of each of the little needles is a white spot. I don't know if it's a mold or a fungus.
It's an
I was
insect.
wondering if Bob knew.
It's an insect, he says.
Hemlock woolly adelgid. Big, long, ugly
Okay.
name. Hemlock woolly adelgid. So it's an insect that's inside a little tiny cottony mass. So the insect produces this waxy white little cotton ball around itself to protect itself. And that has been spreading around for a number of years now on various hemlocks around the area and around the state, too. So it's caused by an insect. It is treatable. We just don't want to let it go on too long. After several years, and as long as that population builds up on there, they're a sucking insect, so they remove the plant sap from the plant, so you can start to get needle yellowing, browning, and drop. And then over time, over a period of several years, you could also, those trees will start to decline, and you can lose them after a while.
Okay.
But it
What
is
do I-
treatable.
what do I treat them with?
Well, you've got a couple options there, and timing is important. And if you can't look this up online, we've got a good fact sheet on it that I can send to you that outlines what to do. But you can either spray the tree itself to help deal with it. There's also some systemic materials. One example of that would be Bear Advanced 12-month tree and insect insect control product, which you can actually follow the directions and you actually can treat the base of the trunk of the tree right around the base, around the root system, and that'll be absorbed into the roots and then moved into the plant that will help control that insect.
Okay. We're out of time, but if you get in touch with the office at 465-3880 or stop at 827 Water Street in Indiana, they'll fix you right up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And there you go. We are indeed out of time with Mr. Pollock this morning with all kinds of interesting stuff. Good morning. It's Indiana in the morning on AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM.